Hey, it's Andy here from Sheet Ready. In the last tutorial we learned all about formatting, how formatting can turn something pretty boring into something more appealing. In this tutorial we're going to learn about formulas and functions. Okay, so first of all, what is the difference between a formula and a function? A formula is an equation designed by the user. On the other hand, a function is a predefined algorithm embedded in Google Sheets. Another way to think about it is that formulas are usually user-defined mathematical calculations. So our classics: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Whereas functions can be more complex mathematical equations or tools to manipulate text and data in some way. Alright, so let's take a look at some basic formulas that you will be using in Google Sheets. The first is addition. So what we have over here is our spreadsheet from the previous tutorial, and if we want to use addition, we might select a couple of items. For example, let's take our car registration and our petrol and add them together. We might do that in this cell. So that's cell C14, as you can see in the reference up here. And we can do this by just typing equals and selecting the first cell, and then the plus sign. And now we can add petrol and hit enter. Now, if we want to, we can add multiple cells together. We could be adding whichever ones we want to choose on whatever basis we want to choose. As you can see, it's very, very flexible. Okay, let's have a look at subtraction. I'm going to take the Coles shop or the groceries, and I'm going to subtract from that the Pokemon cards. And there we have it. Now, with all of these formulas that we're putting together, we can put in real numbers as well. We don't have to be just referencing the cells. So I could add, or subtract rather, another $10. There we go. Or I could just be making sums up. So let's have 67 plus 640 minus 780 and so on. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do multiplication. That's my coffee at work. I'm going to say equals $5 times 10 weeks in the first 3 months of the year. And that is multiplication. You can see how my coffee habit adds up. Right, so now division. Let's take the car registration, which happens once a year. If we divide that by 12, that's how much money we need to set aside every month to pay that car registration. So the other thing you can do with formulas is you can put any combination of formulas and you can still use brackets or parentheses just like you would in any mathematical equation. So let's have a bit of a go at that now. So let's take our Coles shop for example, and I'm going to say that that is something that we do every week. Okay, so that would be over the year, that's what our groceries cost. But I'll also say that we use some discounts throughout the year. So there's 4 times where we use $20 vouchers as a discount measure. So then that could be our total. Now in this case, the brackets didn't really do anything, as we see here, because it's just following the rules of maths. However, if I was to say do something a little bit different like this, yeah, it's going to be quite different. So you can basically put together different math operators in any way that you choose to customize your formulas. Just delete these now. Now let's have a look at some basic functions that will come in really handy in Sheets. Let's get started with some basic mathematics functions. So the first one we want to look at is sum. We type in equals, SUM, and open brackets. Now it's already worked out for us what it thinks we want, and in this case that should work, even though it's picking up our heading. So we could just click on enter to complete that. We can also manually click on the cells that we want, and when we hit enter, it automatically puts in the clothes parentheses there. So this is the sum of all of these items. Something else you can do is the average. So let's have a look at average. And again, it's done a pretty good job, but I'll just discount the heading, select it myself. That's the average of our monthly expenses. Something else we can look at is count. So count should be 10 because we've got 10 items down the side there. We hit enter. Yes. Count A. I'll put this one over here. Let's do count, and I'll show you what the difference is. If I just use count, it says 0. The reason is that the expression count, the reason is that the function count is looking for real numbers. However, if we were to use count A, there we go, press enter. What it's going to do there is it's just going to report back any cells that have information in them. So it could be a number, it could be a word, it doesn't really matter. And down the bottom you'll have how many cells have some form of data in them. And that can be pretty useful. If we were to do that here, it wouldn't be any different, but let's just do it anyway. I didn't put the formula, so let's put the formula in, and it's the same. We also have max and min, and they will do exactly what we're describing. So there's max. Let's have a look at the minimums. Interestingly now, it's telling us that it wants to use this data immediately above. It's just trying to do some thinking for us, but you've got to do your own thinking. Okay, so there we have it. Sum, average, count, count A, max and min. These will be very, very useful. And these are sort of like the go-to, the bread and butter formulas. So much so that when you pull down from the function icon, you have sum, average, count, max and min, and then we had a look at count A as well. Let's now have a look at some basic logical functions. All right, now the first one I want to look at is the if statement. If statement is a very powerful function, and I'll give you an example of what we might do with it. We'll say if, and then we have brackets. Now, what's really cool about Google Sheets is that it's giving you this helpful information and even an example to follow once you start typing in your function. So in our case, it wants a logical expression. Now that could mean that an item could be equal to a number or to another cell. In our case, why don't we say that if the cell here, E6, equals, and I'll put in inverted commas the word groceries, then it will return, whether that value is true or whether that value is false. So if it is true, and we know that it is true in this case, we want it to do something. In this case, what we want it to do is to show the number that corresponds with that item. So here's the amount, 430. I don't need the equal sign there, just to get rid of that. Now, if it's not true, we can either leave it and it will return the word false, or we can put inverted commas. And I want to show you what happens if we leave it. So let's just press enter. Okay, Google's done some smart things here. It's pushed across our formatting, which in this case I don't mind. And by dragging this cell from its bottom corner upwards, we're copying that formula. As we do so, the cell referencing also changes. You see here E6 and C6. We've dragged it up, it now says E5 and C5. So it's now comparing health to groceries, and because health is not groceries, it's returning false. And we can pull this down as well. So the only item that returns groceries is this one here. The other thing we could have done with that formula is to add comma and two inverted commas. If we now copy this formula up and down, we see that it returns blanks. it's literally writing in blank because that's what we want it to do if it returns false. All right. Now you might be thinking, well, why did we just do that? Well, perhaps we just wanted to consider groceries as its own item, for example. Perhaps we want to do something similar when it comes to, let's say, kids. So if this expression equals kids, then we will say we want to put the value in. If it doesn't, we'll do the inverted commas. And now let's go up, let's go down. Kids. Now remembering our sum function from before, we might say sum of all of these items here. We might copy this across and do the same, and we might then turn this into currency, and we'll just get rid of those decimals as well. So by using this if statement and copying it up and down, we actually get to see the amounts shown, and we also have got a sum down here. All right, let's have a look at another logical function. This one is AND. So where this might be useful is, let's have a look over here. If we say equals AND, logical operator, if that equals groceries, which we know that it does. And the next one is Coles shop. Then it should return a value. Let's have a look. It's saying that yes, that is true. Now, if we just take, say, one letter away from this, it says that it's false. It has to be exactly what we want it to be. So where this becomes useful is, that's all well and good, but we can then embed that AND statement into our if statement. The way that works is once we come inside the parentheses here, we type in and then in our own brackets, we say comma, it was D6 equals Coles shop. All right, so what that means is both of these terms have to be correct because we're using the AND operator. It has to be groceries and a Coles shop for it to be true. If it is true, then we report back the value. If it's not true, then it's a blank. So this should still be working. Okay. Now that AND statement can be useful to get some really precise information. The other logical operator I want to show you is OR. So let's put an OR statement in here. We would say here that the logical operator is true if it equals, say if E6 equals groceries, or if D6 equals Coles shop. So this really broadens things for us. And again, what we can do is replace that AND with an OR. Okay, so where this could be interesting, we want to be capturing money that's either work related or transport related. So to do that, we could then say that if we use the logical OR operator, if E6 equals transport, or put here work, and we've got to close the parentheses out. Then we will take the value. If not, we'll leave it blank and then close out the parentheses. Okay, so it's picked it up. Will it pick up the next one? It hasn't liked it, and I suspect it's because I need to include the same operator. I need to include the same reference. Yeah. So that was my bad. And if we go up and we go down, it's now picking up anything that has work or transport in it. And we can pull this across and this will be the sum. Something else that's really useful is clicking up here on functions in the ribbon. And what this does, if I left click, is it gives me the most common ones at the top, but then it gives me all of the subcategories that I can think of. So for example, if I'm looking for a lookup function and I want a bit more information, let's say lookup is what I'm wanting, it'll enter the function here, so it's already started. But if I want some more information, I click on this question mark, and then here's my example. So this is similar to what happened before when we started to type in the function and then this information came up. Now when you go through these examples, they're pretty good, they're pretty helpful, and the more that you look at them, the more that you start to understand them. However, if you need even more information, then down the bottom here is another item you can click on called Learn More. And I click on this and it opens up even more information through the help system in Google Sheets. So there we have it. If you're still really stuck, something else you can do is just type into your search, into your web browser of choice, say Google Sheets, and then lookup function. And what's good about this is there are so many use cases and different examples, and eventually you'll find something that is exactly what you're looking for. Excellent. Well, I hope you found that really helpful. As I said, it was just a basic introduction to formulas and functions. There will be an upcoming tutorial which looks at more intermediate functions, and that will include textual functions, so manipulating text. Also data manipulation functions, which will look at things like lookup, and then some date functions as well. If you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe, as that helps me to get more views and more subscribers, helps me to keep motivated to finish the course and also to move on to some more advanced tutorials. Bye for now.